It was one of those nights that seemed utterly normal on the surface, but deep down something was off. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on until it was too late. I had spent the day lounging around my suburban home, enjoying the rare quietness of a Friday night alone, with nothing but a stack of horror movies lined up to keep me company, and my loyal dog Max curled up by my feet. The sky outside was dark and angry, rain thrashing against the windows with a steady, rhythmic beat that made the shadows in the corners of the room seem to flicker and dance. I remember thinking how peaceful it was, how safe I felt in my own space behind sturdy locks and a security system that I had always trusted implicitly. But at around midnight, the electricity sputtered and then died completely, plunging my home into a thick, suffocating darkness. The sudden loss of power made Max restless. His calm demeanor shattered as he rose, ears alert, growling low and fierce, his eyes darting toward the front door. I felt my own skin prick with unease, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end as I strained to hear what Max was sensing. Then faintly I caught it, the unmistakable sound of the deadbolt being undone, a soft click that seemed almost impossible given the time and the fact that I had double-checked every lock before settling in. My heart froze in my chest, my breath caught in my throat. Someone was inside my house. My first instinct was to grab my phone, but the dead battery and no signal rendered it useless. The backup security alarm I had set was silent. The power outage had knocked it out completely. Panic surged through me like a tidal wave as I scrambled to find a hiding spot. I didn't think rationally. I just dove into the nearest closet, dragging Max with me. The cramped space smelled faintly of mothballs and forgotten clothes, but the quiet was worse. Outside the closet door, I heard the scrape of shoes on the hardwood floor, slow and deliberate, like the intruder was searching for something. A flashlight. Beam suddenly swept the closet door and I held my breath, squeezing my eyes shut, as if that would make me invisible. A hand reached out and grasped the edge of the door, fingers cold and unrelenting. The seconds stretched, agonizing and endless. Before the hand withdrew, footsteps retreated and the door creaked shut again. But the nightmare wasn't over. A chilling whisper floated through the darkness, low, guttural, "I'm not done yet." I trembled, clinging to Max as the minutes dragged into hours. Every creak, every shift in the house was magnified, my mind conjuring horrors from every shadow. I dared not move until the first light of dawn broke through the rain-soaked windows. When the police arrived, they found no signs of forced entry. No broken locks, no shattered glass, nothing to suggest how someone had slipped inside. The security footage had been wiped, likely by the power surge, leaving only eerie silence where evidence should have been. I learned later that the intruder had studied my routine, knowing exactly when I would be alone and vulnerable. The feeling of safety I once had was destroyed that night, replaced by a lasting terror that no lock or alarm could ever fix. To this day I check every window, every door multiple times before bed, and Max still growls at shadows no one else can see. The midnight breach was real, and it showed me that sometimes the most frightening monsters aren't under the bed, they're already inside the house. Moving into my first apartment alone was supposed to mark a new chapter of freedom and independence, a fresh start far away from my parents' house and all its restrictions. The building was older, quieter, with thick walls that muffled most noises, giving the illusion of safety and calm. I spent the first few days decorating, arranging my belongings just right, and feeling a strange pride in my solitude. But the very first night, something unexplainable happened, something that shattered the comfort I'd clung to and made me question every sound that echoed through the hollow halls. Around 2 a.m., just as I was drifting into sleep, I was jolted, awake by the softest sound, footsteps. They weren't the typical creaks or groans of an old building settling. These footsteps were deliberate, paced and unnervingly quiet, as if someone was tiptoeing just outside my bedroom door. My heart thumped hard, adrenaline flooding my veins. I whispered into the darkness, "Who's there?" But my voice sounded small and fragile. No answer came, only the slow rhythm of footsteps moving ever closer. brushing against the carpet with an eerie silence that seemed unnatural. I scrambled for my phone on the nightstand, fingers trembling as I fumbled to unlock it, desperate to call for help. The screen lit up with a weak signal, but I hesitated, the footsteps nearly at the door now. The doorknob started to turn slowly, just a crack open, enough to see a dark shadow peering inside, eyes gleaming with an unreadable hunger. Frozen with fear, I slammed the door shut and locked it with shaking hands, my dog barking wildly from the other room as if sensing the danger too. The pounding began, heavy fists hitting the door with frightening force, the intruder demanding entry with a terrifying persistence. I dialed 911 with barely a whisper, trying to keep calm as I whispered my address. The operator's voice was the only anchor I had, a lifeline in a sea of panic. As the pounding grew louder, the desperate cries of someone bent on breaking in. Minutes felt like hours, then suddenly silence. The footsteps retreated, the banging stopped, and the front door slammed shut somewhere down the hall. When police arrived, they found no forced entry, no sign of how anyone could have gotten in. Security cameras in the building's hallways revealed a figure slipping through a side door hours earlier, blending into shadows, disappearing without a trace. I moved out that very day, leaving behind the apartment that had become a prison of fear. But sometimes late at night, when the building is still and quiet, I swear I hear those footsteps again, soft, measured, and waiting. Home alone for the weekend, I thought I was prepared for the usual solitude, a chance to unwind without interruptions and enjoy the peace that comes with an empty house. But as night deepened and shadows crept over every corner, a gnawing sense of unease settled in, a whisper at the back of my mind telling me I wasn't as alone as I thought. It started subtly, a movement just beyond my peripheral vision while I watched TV, something flickering behind the heavy curtains that draped the living room window. I froze, staring hard at the fabric, heart pounding in my chest. Then, unmistakably, a pale face appeared for a brief second, cold, expressionless, eyes unblinking and fixed on me like a predator locked onto its prey. I yanked the curtains, shut with a sharp snap, my breath hitching in terror as the room plunged into darkness. I locked every door and window with trembling hands, checking twice, thrice, for any point of vulnerability. But the sense of being watched didn't dissipate. Instead, it thickened the air around me, turning the house into a cage of dread. Then came the tapping, slow, deliberate, fingernails drumming against the glass. Each tap was like a countdown, a warning that the watcher outside was still there, patient and waiting. I called the police, my voice cracking as I explained what was happening, clinging to their calm instructions to stay inside and not engage. When they arrived, the tapping stopped abruptly, replaced by an oppressive silence that felt worse than noise. Their search uncovered a hidden crawl space beneath the porch, a narrow, dark void where the intruder had been hiding, watching, waiting for me to be alone and vulnerable. Police found evidence linking this man to several other break-ins targeting homes in the area, but despite their efforts, he was never caught. The fear I felt that night never left me. Even now, I sleep with the curtains tightly shut, every creak and rustle outside sending my heart racing. Sometimes, when the wind blows just right and the shadows lengthen, I swear I see those cold, unblinking eyes staring back at me through the glass, waiting for the next chance to come inside.